Okay, welcome. Practice and presence. I invite you to take a breath, to feel the weight of your body on the chair, on the floor, leaning against the wall, wherever the body is. And take a moment to pay attention to the land, the air, the sea, the sky, the wind, the building, the ground. Maybe with another breath, taking a bit deeper and being aware of the history of this place, of the story of this land, wherever you are right now. And the people who walk this land, who love this land, who were this land, who are this land before colonization, and just spend a moment to acknowledge them. First Nations people across the world, understanding that their work, their love, their life is still happening in these places, and acknowledging that thread of continuance and honoring that. And maybe even asking the question about what's your relationship to that in this moment. To elders past, present, and those coming in the future, we acknowledge you. Check.
Thanks, Suzanne. So we thought we would reach out and reach in and reach all around and talk a bit about these themes of practice and presence that we are anchoring into and hopefully also spiraling out of, that is going to also form the container and the crucible and the compass for what will be a 6-month middle world timepiece with 14 sessions every fortnight. And also every person taking the course will also be able to have a one-to-one deep kind of dive hour-long thing with either one of the facilitators, so myself or SusanneRae. So we thought we'd talk a bit about personally how practice and presence is appearing, turning up, how it actually is in our lives right now. So Suzanne, how is practice and presence alive for you in your life today?
Well, it changes day to day. And this morning I did some meditation for about 20 minutes. I did a little bit of stretching yoga and some pranayama breathing, which I was really grateful to because I'm traveling and I'm moving around, I'm not in the same spot. So it was really nice to have a bit of space this morning. So I try and meditate every day, at least for 5 or 10 minutes, just to touch base with myself. And sometimes it's just guff, but it's still anchoring into that place and to move out into the day with. That's sort of like my daily practice sort of thing. But as you know, Fia, we've just come back from an awesome, gorgeous walk along the cliff tops. And in those moments, singing to the sea and raising my arms and feeling
invoking as we did.
yeah, and feeling the waves of the air and the ocean moving over me. So that there's also that sort of is present. Like when I was there, I wasn't thinking about home. I wasn't thinking about what I'm doing this afternoon. I was just thinking about being on those cliff tops, being with you, being with this course a bit. We were talking about that, but being really focused with where we were.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
Yeah, when I go to those cliffs in Gadigal Bidjigal country, like the mixture of the moisture, the sound of the waves, the cry of certain birds. Like there's a lot of seagulls there, obviously, but at the moment there's also nankeen kestrels. There are currawongs, there are crows, there are terns. I see terns there sometimes. There are cormorants, and all their sounds. Also, there's these little finches in the thickets behind you, and all of that helps me as I watch my breath, as I count my breath, as I align my souls, as I pray. And when I say pray, I mean like consciously leaning in. Like when
Mm,
I say pray, it's like communion. I'm not
mm,
asking for anything. I'm
mm,
praying. I'm like connecting with. And I think that for me is the thing, right? Like if we're talking about, as we will in this course, we're going to offer the provocation, and I know both of us do this in all of our work, that the sacred, the mundane and the sacred are one. Like
mm,
mundane just means of the world, it's sacred. There's no partition except for the partitions that either society makes for us or that we need to make in order to maybe function in society, in
mm,
order to
mm,
get to A to B. And sometimes it's better just when we know we're doing at that. And that's when and when we are being deliberate about it and
mm,
lucid about it. And that's when practice comes into it for me. So this morning I woke up, I swung my legs over the side of the bed, and I did my very particular breath work and my triple soul alignment through my cauldrons. That's how I start every morning. That's my promise to myself. And then every day I work with, not work with, although I lean into certain relationships with certain mysterious ones. So today it happened to be the grandfather and the watchers of time and space. So that's what my Thursdays are about. So I lean into that. And so going to the cliffs, I often go to the cliffs on a Thursday because that's a very grandfather place for me. And I often think about the guardians of the directions and the watchers. And I maybe my practice that day is I intentionally go and read something about them. That can
mm,
be an offering to that connection. Or maybe it's if I have to do a spell that day or a reading that day, I'll wrap them into it. I'll specifically think about them and invoke them, or maybe it even starts to come out of my mouth, but consciously, like I'm consciously leaning in. And so I think about how practice for me are practice is the anchors. They
mm,
are the anchors and the compass for me around how I am orientating my relationship to the sacred at any given moment. I can have that appear while I'm doing dishes, as we've talked about.
mm,
Right now, on this very table, I have the major arcana of the Waite-Smith Tarot spread out on this table because last night I was mapping something with the tarot. That's a practice. And also, as you said, like when I'm doing things like that, I'm not thinking about yesterday, tomorrow. It is almost all of it helps me become really aware of liminal space, of threshold
mm,
space, and of just this kind of timeless, endless spaciousness of presence. I'm
mm,
also really aware that this amazing art that you channeled, that you created, is behind me. Um,
mm,
this is
mm,
SusanneRae did this, and this is, a powerful representation of Persephone, who is a goddess that I am sworn in relationship to. So a lot of my style of stuff is based on relationship,
mm,
and so practice for me is also about how I manage, tend, and turn up inside of relationship.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. My practice is I sometimes think it's chaotic. It's not, it doesn't have the like when you go, oh, on Thursday I'm with the grandfather, go, whoa. Mine is like, it's more like I'll go out to the back of my yard and I'll see the great grandfather tree there and I'll have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go and water the garden and I'll off as I use the watering as an offering to the
Yep.
earth. And I think about where the water's coming from and how
Yeah.
it's been pumped thousands of kilometers to green Broken Hill, those sorts of things. So it becomes like the practices that I do, that more formal ones, start to leak. I say they leak into everything. So it's
Totally.
really hard to know, am I doing that or am I doing that? Like I sit down here on this bed in your house, actually, we're there, and there's this tarot card above me which you can't see, and I go, oh, what's that? And so
Yeah.
then I see that, or remember when we were walking along the beach and that those people had that conversation,
Yeah.
and we got the words spiritual landscape gardener, and
Yeah, you caught them. Yeah. Wholesome or something.
wholesome or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And I just go, oh wow, this, so that will trigger, if I let it, some sort of exploration, or I might see that as a message, or something to pay
You're
attention to.
interacting with it.
Yeah,
But
even
that's the
though,
thing. You're interacting with it.
yeah,
So you're
it's
still consciously choosing to participate.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's not happening to me, it's happening with me.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'm opening to it.
Yes.
And that is, to me, that's being present,
Yeah.
to be open to all of the things that are going on, and then making choices about how I work with that. So, I'm aware that there's a car coming down the road, so I do not step out in front of it.
Totally.
That's my choice.
That's
But
practice too.
and that's practice. Yeah, that is the practice.
Yeah.
But and then it goes into all things like that.
Yeah.
I'm aware there's spirits knocking on my door.
Yeah.
I have a choice. Do I open the door or not?
Yeah.
Those, the practice. Or I say, come on in, let's have a cup of tea and let's sit down and do something together. But I guess where I was coming from is that a more informal, but quite formal, in a weird sort of way. I've got a bag of stuff over there I'm toting around the world with me, with
Yeah.
my cards and my little dolls and all my little magic things,
Yeah.
to be used when called for.
Totally. Yeah.
My
I
little
think a lot of it is based on personality, right? Like it's not like my thing around the days of the week. It's not like I don't, if Aphrodite comes knocking on my door, I don't go, hey, it's not your day. Like that's not what happens. It's more that for me, and the personality I have and the things I like a lot of structure. And I do really like ritual, and I do really like praying words and chants and things that have been used by hundreds if not thousands of people. Like that stuff does something to me. But I too am, basically it all comes down to participating in what is going on, and it's so much about listening. And then also for me it is about choosing and lucid choosing, and then responding as well when I'm trying to catch up with myself. Like a lot of the tools that I continuously try to craft into excellence, it's about how I respond as much as it is about what I initiate or what I catalyze. Because there's always so much more going on that I am not aware of or consciously aware of, but my fetch might be. My dreaming one is,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Or maybe my aura is actually picking up on shit that my frontal lobe is not, or something. And so I'm constantly trying my best to attune to all those levels of consciousness, so that I can be more and more available to all the resources, basically. And so that I am able to, if the great conversation that is weaving wants to include me or call upon me, that I can go, oh, okay, you're calling me now. So now I come, right? And
Yeah.
I guess like that brings up questions about fate, about destiny, about meaning, about all these other things, about chaos, or what we even mean when we say chaos, or what you mean, what I mean when and we say those words. So really, I feel like with these huge titanic concepts of practice and presence, it's almost like we're daring ourselves into inquiry a little bit around actually just how do we live our lives? What are we naturally prioritizing? And if when we check that on all the levels available to us, are we content or happy with that? Yeah.
Yeah. How's that working for you? In fact, that sort of question. And
Yeah.
I love working with you, Theo, because of that structure that you have. I'm structured in some ways, because
Yeah,
some of the
totally.
practices that I do are like really old.
Yeah, don't undersell it.
I'm not underselling it, but I tend to be more rebellious, but I like how our synergy works and balances that
Yeah,
together.
totally.
So, as I was saying to you earlier today, you make me bring my silliness out. and I really enjoy that. And that's sacred. That's a sacred relationship,
Yeah.
to allow the fullness of who I am to be present without all the doubts and the questions. I mean, they're there, but
Yeah.
I find working together helps me smooth them out, smooth them down, smooth them down, smooth them down. And there's this way of just being, just being in the world. Just what is it to be this human in the world? What is it to be this spiritual person having a physical experience, that people talk about? What
Yeah,
is
sure.
that actually is? What is it?
Yeah, where does
It's
that
like,
take us?
where
Yeah.
does that, and is it's eating the barmy, it's eating the
And being grateful for it. Like when you were talking about laughing and silliness, I was just thinking about how when a friend brings that laughter out of me, or when we're
yeah,
all laughing, I what my it's not exactly like a formal practice, but
yes,
often what presence happens there is how grateful I am for it,
yeah,
how appreciative I am of this connection, of this laughter, of this silliness, of this ridiculousness,
mm,
of the power of laughter to banish things, of the power
mm,
of laughter to transform stuck things. And how, like, I feel like the crux of our course really is, here are a bunch of stuff we know works to help you manage
mm,
and tend, but then really it's going to be about what is already going on in your life, and we encourage you to look at that and feel into that and know that it's already sacred. And here are maybe some ideas or suggestions around how to tinker with it a bit so that
mm,
you can, in your life, more and more become even more surrendered into presence and feel more capable
mm,
of choosing what road to take, or noticing what is happening for you.
and not being overwhelmed by the waves of stuff that's happening, because stuff is going to happen. We never
Yeah.
get to a point in life where we're not, when there's a disaster around
Totally.
every corner. That's the reality. There's never a place where we are, even as humans, we have this false belief that it
Yeah.
is going to be like this. And like, these course, I think, will give out and share some skills that I know that have worked for me through some pretty dark moments,
Mm.
um, trudging through the swamps of despair, to get to the other side, is these have worked. They've worked for me.
Yeah.
And I know the things that work, what you offer for you. And hopefully you people who are listening, who come and join us, may even bring things that work for you.
Absolutely.
And we create this interaction and
Yeah.
exchange, and a pooling and a strengthening of
Yeah.
presence, of being, of practices that work and build our
Yeah.
skill base.
And are pleasurable. That's
Yes,
a thing I highly value for myself. I'm like, does the work of this practice bring me pleasure?
yes,
You
yes.
know, because one of the things that I'm personally trying to consciously unravel more and more in my life is the internalized Protestant. We were talking about this the other
Mm,
night. This Protestant work ethic. Also, the like this very real thing. I was watching like Great British Bake Off a few weeks ago for the first time, and in the first episode, they actually talked to Ronald Hutton, who's this historian of paganism and stuff, Celtic Britain, or medieval studies, I think. But they were talking about how actually the reason we have in the West, at least, this like when we take a cake, and I do it and I go, oh, it's so naughty,
mm,
is actually about Protestantism and about the Reformation, and about how prior to Catholicism, obviously cakes and sweets and pleasure and embodiment, very pagan or whatever. And in Catholic societies too, bake cakes for feast days, take cakes and
mhm.
share them. And then the Protestants are like, that's no pleasure, no lust for
No.
life, none of that, just austerity and the text and
Mm,
and your salvation through belief.
mm.
and that affects us. That affects us more than we know in societies like Australia, Britain, USA. There's a lot of that bullshit in the air. And even if we weren't raised, like you or I weren't raised this way, we were totally not raised this way. But it's in the matrix of society.
Mm,
And
mm,
so for me, a lot of my practice is about what do I know works to help me become more quick about
mm,
identifying what is actually motivating this.
mm, mm,
Not
mm.
motivating me, but motivating this behavior, this
Yeah.
action,
Mm,
this choice, this
mm,
reaction. And
mm,
then I can go, oh, no thanks. And I can
mm,
turn it
mm.
around. And I
That's
can,
right.
and
Yeah.
when I can name that shade or that demon or whatever, I have power with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that. Because those layers, I talk about the layers that we put on, that get put on us as we grow and are shaped, and being present helps us and helps me to unpeel those layers and reveal the self, or
Yeah.
whatever the self is,
The
or
experience of
whatever
that. Yeah.
that, yeah. And that we are so conditioned, I think, by Christianity, that we are essentially evil, that we are essentially bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I, we were just talking about that, our
Totally.
core things is that we are unworthy and whatever.
Yeah.
That we're so that the most scary thing is to think that we might be all right. That in there, that internally we're okay,
Yeah.
and that somehow we need to suffer and really no, we don't need to bring that on ourselves. There's enough of that
Yeah.
around, but that we're actually okay
Yeah.
inside. It's fine. And that's really scary, because the culture around us tells us we're not, and is trying to sell us stuff all the time,
And
and
make us work.
make us work, and make us afraid,
Yeah.
and make us scared, you
Yeah.
know and so all of that stuff out there, all of those things out there in the shops, to make us feel okay about ourselves. No,
Yeah. And
just
like
create.
we're valid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sadly, but we are valid just as we are,
Yeah, we're
just
intrinsically whole and complete unto
unto
ourselves.
ourselves.
Yeah.
In this moment, in
Yeah.
this space, in whatever the shape or form that we are taking, we're fine. We're fine.
Yeah. Totally. I'm super excited about this because I already know with the group we already have and those who are coming, like, this is going to be such a dynamic, emotionally intricate, beautiful thing. And it's gonna have its crunchy points because practice and presence, they bring that up.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. The more
Yeah,
present the more present I become, the more aware of the layers.
that's right. And some of them are a bit scratchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, I'm really excited about it. And I think we will hold this well. And I think it's going to be a really beautiful space to explore um, a lot of things that I don't know, that's my feeling. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to arise for all of us in this crucible. It really feels like a crucible. I've
Yeah.
never entered into a course before where I really feel that it's a crucible.
Yeah.
So come join us and find that sort of joyful spark within yourself.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Love you all.
Mwah.